Good morning, afternoon, and evening, and welcome to in12d podcast. Today is season 2, episode 17, Ancient Star Wisdoms. In the with me, sorry, my apologies, are my co-host Susie Bond from Cork Island and Kathy Pratt from Vermont. Kathy, you want to introduce our guest?
Yes, this is pretty exciting for me because I have been using this little book, Inside Degrees, for quite some time. So Elias is a rock star in my world, or a star man, or you are all about the stars. So welcome and thank you for being willing to coming here. You called it this perfect moment. Thank you for showing up, Elias.
Thank you. I'm very, very glad to be here.
So why is this the perfect moment?
Yeah, really. Well, because the world need has never been greater, which I think everybody knows. Everybody needs the truth, the real at this point. And that's all I've been dedicated to since the 60s. And I'm so, I'm right here with everybody and everything. I have been in that position constantly, certainly since the 70s. But the world had to kind of go through a huge upheaval to match my work, or I had to, well, both, because, when I started out, I was just a young guy who just was wanting to get into things. And the world was not yet crazy enough to really draw me forth, if you understand what I'm saying. So the world had to become completely wild and crazy, which it's done now extremely well. And I had to wake up and go through a huge, huge path and journey to get to this point. But now there's a convergence. There's an incredible convergence where the world need and my capacity to be present with it are so strongly convergent that it's a little hard for me to even sleep at night or do much of anything. Honestly, at this point, I'm overexcited and I'm over motivated. I'm just way into it. Best way I can say it.
Quick question: how did it all start?
Hmm?
How
What did you?
how did your journey start?
Sure. It started most of all by being aware when I was going to college in New York State back in the 60s that something was arising in me that was so strong that I was going to have to follow it. I was not spiritually oriented. I was consciousness oriented. And my consciousness was expanding and I couldn't quite follow it. So here's the wildest part of my story. Okay. In 1969, when I was at a tremendously low point living in Boston, a friend of mine from college, we ran into each other on the street and he said, I have to take you to my friends. And we went to an apartment in Lower Manhattan. And there was this strange commune cult group that I got involved with, heavily involved with for over 6 months. And by the time I got out of there, I was simultaneously almost as wiped out as everybody else in that group was. But I had had a tremendously fortunate, in all the stuff that people say about cults, they never talk about a fortunate thing. It's always horrible for everybody. And it was pretty horrible. But my being was so united with the impulse that was behind it, the communal impulse, that all I took from it was, this is a great commune. This is a group of people living a new life, because it was kind of a cross between the two. And so I just took off after that, got into astrology, found at another commune in Boston, cult commune, kind of an impulse to read astrology books, started reading astrology books, became completely carried away with astrology. And then after all of that, essentially, I started to really wake up. And the astrology really helped. And I essentially couldn't stop. And I had many, many difficulties in life. I've always had many difficulties in life, outwardly. But I've always been inwardly lit up like a fire, just incredibly lit up. And so essentially what happened was I went through every phase of the world, of the life, constantly emerging, constantly waking up. And but it all started with this sense, this knowing that, I mean, it sounds wild to say this, but that I was chosen. It's not a fanatical thing. It was just a real thing, that I was chosen, that I was meant to be doing some incredible work. And so that's what I've been doing.
Wow. I love to move forward a little bit from there, because I was reading on your website about in 1975, I think approximately, you had a prophetic dream. So like, did you feel like when you settled into, I suppose, maybe acceptance that you were here for a reason, there was a real purpose to your being here, that opened you up to have this information come through in your dream, which is, I think it's where you brought in this whole star genesis, the inner wisdom.
Yeah.
Is that
Yes.
how that came about?
Yes. I've had a very strong tendency to have many revelations, many extraordinary revelations, but 2 or 3 of them stand out the most, and that one certainly stands out the most. That was the most powerful dream that I've ever had, and I've had many. And briefly, in that dream, I just found myself in Atlantis. It had all the signs of, I just knew I was in Atlantis. And I had a pocket, not a pocket watch, but in my pocket, I had a timepiece. And I was asked to determine, it'll sound so funny, but I was asked to determine whether there were two women, two sisters, and both of them wanted to be queen, or whatever it was really called, with this leader there. And I basically just took this big, heavy timepiece, very unusual timepiece, out of my pocket, put it in front of each of these ladies. One of them had a very distorted pattern. The other had a very beautiful pattern. I called that out, and the one who had the distorted pattern was led away, and the one who had the beautiful pattern became the queen, or whatever you would call it. And that became the basis for, once I had that dream, I had to follow it out. I had to understand, what's going on here? And so I have been researching it ever since the mid 70s, a long time. And I call it the Atlantean zodiac is one of the names for it. Essentially, I was shown a different zodiac, a different pattern. I learned from the dream, because you see, this gets complicated, but in the dream, there were these energetic patterns, and I just knew that there was some way that I could trace that through astrology, because I was already involved with astrology for a few years before the dream. And then I went on a quest to discover that. And so that became this alternative approach that is very unusual. It's a different sequence, it's a different pattern. And the only way I can say that I can have proof that it works is I've applied it in readings and in classes and in everything I do and in my life ever since, especially after a few years. And it's infinitely more relevant and alive and true than the regular zodiac. But I can't really prove it in the usual way. That's the proof. And I know it works, but it's so unusual that I don't even know how to. There are very few astrologers who know about this, friends that I've made over the years, and who affirm it like crazy, and other people. But basically, it's an unknown thing. It's still what I'm doing.
Wow. So is that where it took you to, when you said to us about the stars of the now, like that you're not seeing yourself now as an astrologer in the traditional sense? It's more of like something that's right here, right now, and
Yes.
it's a completely different system, basically.
Yes. I do have a satirical bent, and I call what the astrologers are doing these days celebrity astrologers, because they just come on with all this knowledge, and they're just so exciting, and everybody loves them, and it's a big thing these days, astrology. But or commercial astrology is what I don't do. Commercial astrology. I'm not a celebrity at all.
Mm-hmm.
I just do the real thing from the heart. And yes, it is very much what's happening now. It's come to the point where, I just know, for example, not to go into this at length, but just to say this, there are dire prophecies and dire predictions on every hand. Everybody's saying them in one way or another. I disagree. I disagree completely.
Good.
I do not see disintegration and destruction at all. It's a tough time for sure. But we're going toward an incredible, to put it in star terms, towards the age of Aquarius. We're right at the verge of the age of Aquarius or Aquaria. And so, this is just the old playing out. So I don't have any despair or any anguish or anything like that. I just see what's really happening on a greater level.
Well, that's refreshing to hear.
Yeah, it's I've tried to entertain every possible kind of negative point of view, because there's a part of me that is fascinated with that. But it never works. I mean, I really tried. I tried to believe in these things because everybody around me believes in these things. And then it just always is sloughed off. I cannot sustain a negative point of view. It's been like that all my life. My parents said that I was just this bright person. Well, I remember actually, I have a lot of memory of early life, and I was just this bursting with light person, and I've been like that all my life. That's who I am. So I can't go negative. I just can't. I mean, I've tried it. I've tried everything, but I can't, especially now, I cannot go negative. The world, it does not need anybody else to warn people of how, if they keep going like this, it's all going to be horrible. I mean, I'm familiar with all of that stuff, really very familiar, but it's not true. It's just not true. We're going to go through a difficult time for 2 or 3 years, but we are going toward a whole different reality.
So moving from, I think we were in the age of Pisces and we're moving into age of Aquarius. Is that it?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Every time, or from my knowledge, I don't know, I could be wrong, is that every time we change seasons, there's an upheaval or a change that happens within the
Yes.
human psyche. Is that what we're feeling today? Is that what we're seeing?
Yes. This time is the most extreme ever, as everybody's saying, and it's true. It's the most extreme ever. But yes, and it basically is that we have outlived our human 3D state, as people call it these days. I have a little trouble with New Age terminology, but anyway, and so yeah, we've done this too long, what we're doing, and we've run it into the ground, just to put it simply. And now a whole different wave is coming up. You can find, I don't know if you have been around some of the extraordinary children that are being born in this time, but they carry it. I have met it in a number of them. I'm talking about the ones that really are light infused. It's just incredible what some of these children are bringing. And they are what we call children of the future or children of Aquaria. And that's one of the levels at which you can sense what's really happening, that it's not going to just be more of the same, and we're just not going to become AI freaks and give it all up. And basically, the human evolutionary stream is not up to lose its place. We haven't even started yet. We've only done this one thing, and we've done it basically what the age of the fishes, as I call it, Pisces, is all about suffering, suffering and dying. And we have suffered and died very, very well. We have really learned the art, and I don't underestimate the power of suffering and dying. So I don't mean that it's just all been stupid, but we have to get on with also finding joy and finding a rebirth, and that's part of the age of Aquarius. We're moving from a lot of dying and suffering into light and rebirth, and it's not an easy transition, to say the least, because we're hooked on the dark and on what we've been in, and the suffering and the deaths, and so we have to play it out to the most extreme point before we will give it up. That's the drama of the times. We're playing it out to the most extreme point, and then we will be able to wake up. And it's it's not going to be easy. I'm not a sweetness and light person in that sense, but it's dynamic and it's real. That's all I can say.
Yeah, well, if I put it in a different well, from a different perspective, is that instead of using 2D, 3D, the new age stuff, it's like a crab that sits in its shell, and the shell is tight on itself. At a certain point, it has to get out of that shell and form a new one. One, there's the pain of getting out the old shell, and two is you're vulnerable because you don't have a hard shell around you, so you're vulnerable to the elements around you, and that's what we're feeling today. And again, we all go through atrocities in our lives. I don't want to, atrocity is a bit hard, but we all go through issues, or we overcome certain issues that are we face during our life. And every time we feel that we're hitting rock bottom, it's the place where we are reborn into our new you, whereby we can grow stronger and be able to live happily after that point. And I feel what you're saying is that we're at that cusp of a new earth, if you want to call it. I don't want to go into other people's thing, but it's a new earth being reborn. But until we let go, we can't move forward, and that's the period of letting go.
Oh, completely. Everything you're just saying is exactly what I feel. And no, yes.
That's beautiful and pretty hopeful. You talked about your work between the worlds. Can you say a little bit about that?
Oh boy. Okay. So this is the big thing. I was in a 10-year plus relationship with a woman who was and is my ultimate mate, Sarah. And towards the end of that time, she was dying of breast tumors, and she had always known that she was going to die in a dramatic way, and we had been guided to see that this was going to happen. And in fact, it was happening. We spent 2 years with her not having any regular medical intervention because of a lot of important reasons, but it gets too complicated to go into all this. So we experienced her death journey, her cancer journey, very purely, with great dedication and intensity. And at the end of that time, she woke up, she suddenly brightened and was just in this incredible space in the last 6 weeks of her life. And then at the moment of her death, this is the part that's very, very hard to convey, but I'll just do it as simply as I can. I became at one with her at the moment of her death, not lingeringly, possibly later, but instant. And she instantly transformed. And ever since then, she and I have been at one. And this is a huge thing. And then it's led to also tuning in with other beings gradually, other key people that we've known who've died or others. And at this point, this has been going on a long time. The triple death was in 1993. At this point, I would say my whole life is inflowed with the beings and worlds that I've been tuning into all these years. Now it's so much a part of me that I almost feel funny talking about it. But of course, I have to talk about it. I don't mean that I don't want to talk about it, but it's I can't say it in words. I can only live it. But nonetheless, that's what I'm doing all the time, and that's why I know what's going to happen, because I'm infused. Not most people who die do not change that much, okay? Because they're not ready to. There are some people who die who wake up, and that's what happened to Sarah and a few of the others that I'm involved with. And so they feed me, they infuse me with a life wisdom that really isn't just mine, although it's I'm at one with it. It's conducive, but basically, I'm tuning in, tapping in to these beings and worlds all the time, and they are giving me a feeling for what is coming, and also what is. I mean, a feeling for everything. I don't know how to limit anything in talking about it, because everything in my life is so multidimensional. It's like I would have to talk about it on 6 levels at once to even do justice to anything. It's just the way it is.
When you say infuse, do you mean like you get information automatically? Is it your thought process that had changed? And I'm not sure if you are able to describe. If you can't describe it in word, that's fine. But if you are able to describe it, would it be a flow of information in your mind that you get on a constant basis?
Yes, that's right. You got it. And I'm alive to it. Yes, you got it.
Okay. And it's like you mentioned before, it's like you're so excited that you don't get some sleep certain nights. Is it because the flow of information is always flowing through? It's like a highway of information, and it keeps you. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, and okay, Sarah, but she has other names too. But Sarah, the woman that died in 1993, Sarah is very, very strongly with me all the time. And for example, and she just infuses me with new life. And the beings who I'm connected with on the inner are so excited about what's going on in the world, because they say, well, yes, this is exactly what has to happen. Here it is. And they're just always looking forward through it. And that's what I've learned to do. We call it the future, but it's not literally the future. But I always do use simple language. So yes, I'm looking toward the future, toward a different reality, and that's what's infusing me now. And so the future will not stop coming through me and insisting that I become an integral part of it.
Interesting. Here's a question: how does it look like, the future? I'm getting overly excited.
Yeah, I've been listening to a few of your podcasts, that each of you, well, combinations, and I very much look forward to talking with you. But anyway, yes, it's the future is exceedingly real. Essentially, it's the sloughing off of mental egoic consciousness, which is extremely dominant right now, like never before. We've been working on it for centuries, but we've really gotten it down. We're just in mental egoic consciousness, totally. And it's casting that off. When you've had moments in your life when your mind isn't working and you're not, when you're quiet, silent, peaceful, interior, it's not that the whole world will be completely silent and peaceful, but there will be an element of that stillness, where right now there's all agitation and chaos. There will be a capacity of the human soul to be with life rather than to fight it and fight everybody else. And it's going to be amazing. There was this one moment. Let me just say this. I was very, very ill in Colorado in 2018. And I had about a 3-week period where I had these incredible dreams, just these incredible dreams. I had the same dream every night, all night long, for a couple of weeks there. And those dreams said to me, they were enactments of humanity as an ecstatic flow of vibrant energy, full color. I felt them to be like the 1960s, only the next octave. And I was just transported by these dreams. And I've come to feel that it's not going to be exactly like that, but in the deepest essence, that will be what's sparking us. We're going to be waking up and coming alive. And I don't know the exact timing, but certainly within the 2020s.
I'm fascinated by that description of that dream. I've had some really interesting dreams myself. Where you really wake up very lucid. You're awake during the dream, and almost like you can kind of co-create within the dream state.
Yes.
And I'm never quite sure when I'm processing it the next day, is it prophetic or is it just an experience in the dream state? Who knows really, I guess. But I loved when we were talking before we went live, Ellias, and you described yourself as a sacred magician and not in the traditional magician sense of the word. And I think we're beginning to kind of touch on parts of that as we listen to you on this episode. It's been really thrilling to just get glimpses of some of your journey, which sounds like it's been it's never the same. It seems to me like you're constantly in a state of evolution. You're never getting complacent, or you're expecting miracles, or you're expecting the magic, and then it seems to come. And I'm wondering, is that because you have this ability to tap in, the ability to connect with the bigger field, with the, with other mystical realms, or, however you want to describe that. So I'd love to expand a bit more. If we could tease out that sacred magician in you, I'd love to hear more.
I just have to say that I really appreciate this occasion and who you all are. I have been tuning into some of your previous material. The one a couple of weeks ago was just incredible. But yeah, I do. Yes. Okay, here we go. I am experiencing that I've been gifted with very unusual capacities, and I will say, without censorship, that I do know my past lives, and that I've had these capacities a long time. Okay, I've had them before. Although past lives are not entirely past, but anyways, I don't want to get into the whole thing about that. And so I was born this way. Okay, I'll just put it that way. I was born this way, and the sacred magic is that I found. Okay, let me be really upfront. There was a moment in, what was it, 1987, where Merlin came through to me. And that's when everything really started in earnest. And I have this connection with Merlin and with the whole Arthurian stream. And that's where the sacred magical dimension is, it's infused into me. And sacred magic is basically when you are at one with the earth completely. You're here to serve the earth, and the earth comes through. And we used to call her she of earth. Many names, Gaia, many names. And that energy just becomes activated through you, and you find yourself able to do things, not necessarily do spectacular things. I don't do spectacular things. I try not to. I'm allergic to sensationalism. I have been all my life. So it's not. I don't want to portray it like I'm just hot stuff. But what I mean is that I find that everything is alive and it's coming through, and when necessary, incredible things can happen. But I don't choose the time. I just make myself available. And mostly incredible things don't happen because I'm just living my everyday life, in a sense. But when they do, they really do. And I'm always open to that.
In so many ways, everyday life can be incredible, depending on where we put our attention. Something that I'm working with a lot right now is that everything is alive, and you just said that, and that your work revolves around, all your work is for the earth. So
Yes.
what does that mean to you? All your work is for the earth.
Oh boy. Reducing things to words is hard, but I can do it. I'm very good at words. It's just that I'm always aware that there's much more. But anyway, yes. Okay. The earth is, when I was growing up in New York City. And I didn't really, how do I put it? I felt deeply bereft, even though I was outwardly enthusiastic about the city, because deep down, I knew that I was missing everything. Even though I was alive to the trees and I was alive to all kinds of things, it was fading out and I lost it. It was such that I had to go to the planetarium, Hidden Planetarium in New York. And that's when I first got involved with the stars, because I was looking up at these stars, and that was the most alive thing, because the Earth is not strong in New York City. I grew up across the street from the park, but it wasn't strong enough for me, not at all. And so eventually what happened was I was drawn to the country avidly. Started in Vermont, lived in Vermont more than once, and happened in Oregon, happened in many places. And I had to go toward the earth. I had to be part of the earth, and I did. And eventually, what happened was I knew that the earth was asking me to be here fully with her, and that this incarnation. Okay, I'm 78 years old. I come from a very long-lived people. People in my family tend to live a long time. And people these days often live a long time. There's a lot of people living into their 90s at this point. I expect I'll be around for 20 more years, okay? That's not 2 years. That's not 4 years. Like, it doesn't matter if that's true. I'm living as though I have a whole generation. 20 years is like a generation. I have a whole generation of life ahead, and I feel it. I sense it. Okay, so I'm saying that because I'm just now getting into the earth fully. The woman that I'm with, Sharuna, she has way stronger earth sensibility than me. Her father was a biodynamic farmer from Sweden, which is a Steiner world thing. And she grew up in the garden, basically, very strongly involved with the earth. And she's helped me a lot. We've been together for 26, 27 years. And the Gaias, we call our children the Gaias. We did not give them our last names, either of our last names. They're all the Gaias. And we didn't choose that just to be cute. They are the Gaias. And all of them, even though they're older now and in some ways have lost some of it, they have such an incredible thing. For example, we have a lot of chickens around here. They just love these chickens. They just give their whole being, every one of them, to these chickens, and the chickens just love them. And this has been true in, any animal, and they're so in the earth, and Sharuna certainly is so in the earth, and that's the world I am surrounded by. I'm surrounded by tree huggers, to use the crazy cliche. Yes, I'm surrounded by tree huggers.
Quick question. You said New York wasn't the earth wasn't strong enough. Been to New York many times. Do you feel that the energies of the people who are living over there had degraded the life of the land beneath their feet?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. There is a Native American energy in parts of New York. I lived in a section where that was the uppermost part of Manhattan for the first 10 years, and there were arrowheads. There were all kinds of things going on there. Yes, there is that world, and I connected with it, but none of my friends did, and it kind of never went anywhere. But I had to go to the West Coast. If I wanted to come alive, I mean, I know you're all back east, but I had to go to the West Coast and just have this wild time in the West, because the West is more vibrant, and I needed that vibrancy. And Hawaii, most of all, we lived in Hawaii for 10 years, and Kauai, if you have any sense of these places, Kauai is just the ultimate, like, whoa. And that's what has shown me what's possible,
Okay. Susie, you had something?
Yeah, I'm like I just think it's a beautiful perspective, Elias. I'm still in awe of that your kids' surnames is the Gaias. I just think maybe we all need to take that as our surname, because maybe that's part of this shifts that we are going through, because like we've just got our heads not where they need to be. So, you know, people are clutching at stars, or, you know, like in astrology and stuff like that. But then, you know, when they come back to earth, about being grounded and being real and, you know, being really connected, and how that feels and how that manifests
Yes.
in life, you know, that they're two so different things, like being kind of, you know, astrology driven or whatever with the stars. But it's right here, right now on the earth is where we're needed, and we're here for that reason. I really am passionate about that. So is there
Yes.
something, like, I know you do teleseries, and I know that you do some work online. Is there a way to kind of help guide people? Because, you know, people are looking for direction or support. And, you know, how do you do that with your teleseries work?
Yes. Right now they're in big ferment. Yeah, I just want to comment first about what you just said. I see myself as always as connecting the depths to the heights and the heights to the depths. The heights of the heavens, the cosmos, and the depths of the earth. And it's my sense is that humanity is in the shallow middle, and we need lots of depth and lots of heights, and the fusion of the two, most of all, the fusion of the two. That's how we will get back to reality. But anyway, to answer your your question, yeah. So it's all in. What I have been doing is just doing these classes for years and years and years. And finally, it's dawned on me that I have to intensify what I'm doing to the max. So we just put out a survey to people. What do you want? And I think what I'm going to have to do is do like monthly updates, as I once did many years ago, and really speak to people more, because all I've been doing is once or twice a year doing this, once or twice a year doing that. And now it's every moment counts, if you know what I'm saying. And like I've got to really intensify my service. But what I have been doing is just classes and readings. About 90% of my focus is individual star readings. And people who have those experiences, I realize I should put up on my website. I should have been doing this all these years. Shastara, the woman who does the website, said I should. Now I realize I really should. We would have the most incredible group of testimonies or whatever, testimonials, because people have the world's most incredible experiences with me. That's the main thing I do, is one-on-one. And because I'm a little bit expensive, and because I don't know, whatever reasons, I don't do very many readings. You know, I'm high end, and I don't have credentials. I'm not a celebrity, but the readings that I do are just so powerful, and that's where it all comes through. And then, yes, I need to really step up my group work, because now people more and more, they need to form groups and, you know, shared enthusiasm, shared impulse, because basically we're all too isolated, as everybody knows, ever since COVID started. Throughout the 2020s, we've been increasingly isolating. So we need, you know, community tremendously.
Well, there you go. There's the impetus for you to up your game and maybe bring down your prices, Mr. Elitist. Because making it more affordable too, and that might build the momentum to, get people in and see the benefit and get those testimonials. Because, I know how you feel. Recently, I've had on my website that I do, intuitive work as well. And suddenly people just have been signing up for it. And it's, I can never tell what I'm going to be doing. You're just in the moment with the person. And what I've noticed is that there's a beautiful quality of information available when you enter into that kind of dialogue with another and the field around us. And it's been really, no two experiences are the same, and it can really guide people to kind of dig a bit deeper and to maybe make some little, like, I think it's only like 10 or 15 degree course corrections is what's needed. It's not like a major, I think most people are possibly on their right path, but maybe they're doubting it, or maybe they're, unsure. And it doesn't take much, but it's good to have a guide or to have support system in place, I think.
Yeah, what people need the most is to be entirely with themselves affirmatively, to cast off all the negatives, and to move with their destiny, and be encouraged and empowered. And that's what I'm always doing with people.
Cool.
You said something earlier about your work being the sacred magician, about transmuting suffering into something we can all move with. So maybe that's something that we can do in big ways or small ways. What does that look like to you? Transmuting the suffering.
I just have to be honest for 20 seconds. I feel so emotional about everything we're talking about. I'm a very emotional person in a certain way that it's just overwhelming me. I just have to say that when you ask these questions and say these things. Okay. In other words, I've always wanted people to ask me these questions, is what it amounts to. And here we are. The transmutation of suffering is probably closer to my heart than any other subject we've been talking about. And not that any of it's been neutral or anything, because I feel like people are good, and that they've been conditioned and programmed incredibly strongly to go against themselves. And the suffering is that people basically feel that they're meant to suffer, and they're just up against themselves all the time. They're just up against the world, up against themselves. And the transmutation of it is just really fathoming what we're doing here, and entering into this life with a passion. And there are methods and there are things to do, but it basically amounts to showing up here and being present and casting off the veil of suffering. And I have to say, one of my pet causes is I'm not very happy with the world's religions, or at least the religions of the West. I love spirit, but I don't like what the religions have done. And I know this sounds like a partisan comment, but I have to make it because people are still associating spirit with religions that basically condemn them. And we have to get to this point where we love and appreciate and acknowledge and honor each one of us all together. That's the path. That's the journey.
That's beautiful.
I agree with you. We're at a point. See, when we talked at the beginning, the movement from Pisces into Aquarius, Pisces was a symbol of religion.
Yes.
And that is coming to an end. I believe we have evolved to a certain point where we do not need a structured religion to guide us.
Yes.
We are at a point where we have to let our soul expand and basically walk this earth.
Yes, it's we don't need to look back. I know that everybody is always looking back. We need to look forward. I have terms for things. I call it the past now and the future now. We tend to be caught up in the past now, and we need to be oriented toward the future now. And in the past now, everything's always rear view mirror. In the future now, you're moving forward. It's all in the now, if you know what I'm saying. But it's the now can lean back or can lean forward. And that's what we need the most, is to lean forward in the now so that we invite and welcome grace and beauty and wonder and everything, all the beautiful, incredible things. It's just a matter of entering the future now.
You say that you're not great with words, but you're doing an incredible job of waking up my emotions as we talk about these subjects too. So I really appreciate that. If people want to work with you, they go to your website.
Yes.
And
should I give my phone? What I tend to do is to give my phone number. I know that's not the traditional thing to do.
Well, we can. What if I? How about we'll put that in the description underneath the YouTube, so that if people want it, they can go there and not just put it out here.
That would be good.
Okay, yeah. So people can sign up for a star reading or get on your list to know when you're going to do your teleclass, which I highly recommend if you need some a positive way to look at what's going on. It's a great way to spend an hour and a half or 2 hours just bathing in feeling like everything is beautiful and we are connected.
Yeah. Yes, it's become an art form for me now. It definitely has. Yeah, for sure.
Before we end, I know we're getting close to the hour, but I have a quick question for you. I know you mentioned that you were born this way. You were born with the ability to see and allow things to flow without holding on to it and connect with the spirit world and speak to the stars. Were those superpowers, if you want to call them, did you cultivate them? Did you work on them to expand them? Or this is what I came with and this is what I'm leaving with, which is I have them at 100% from point 0 to point 10?
Everything in my life is cultivated. Everything. I don't take anything for granted. I don't see anything that I've ever been. I mean, it's beautiful. It's great. I tap it, but I'm only concerned with the future. I'm only concerned with opening the portal to what is meant to be. And so yes, I'm entirely working with it. I don't think anything that I've ever been is even relevant, because it's just in the background. But what's in the foreground is that I can activate that, embody that, manifest that now and toward the future. And I feel half my age, and I feel completely sparked by possibility. And there's nothing for me of, this is the way it is. And I don't predict. I don't repeat anything.
Mhm.
In fact, one of the reasons I can't do what most people do is I cannot go to conferences and give talks and give the same talk. It would just drive me nuts. I cannot repeat myself. That's the reality. I have to be creative, innovative, and improvisational all the time.
I think you're a new Earth visionary is something I've read about you, and I think it's a brilliant description. And visionary is constantly evolving. It's not staying the same and rinsing and repeating. So thank you so much for inspiring us and for this really enlightening conversation.
Thank you.
I really appreciate all of you. I feel each one of you, and this is wonderful. This is just amazing.
Thank you. And to all our listeners, thank you for joining us today. We went 1 minute, 2 minutes beyond the hour, but that's perfect. We had an amazing conversation. The video will be available, and if anybody wants to connect with Ellias, you can go to his website, eliaslalonde.com, and it is on below this video. Thank you all, and we'll see you next week.